Welcome back to the GoGamecocks.com college football preview show. South Carolina's 8-2, heading into its 11th game of the season against Coastal Carolina. CEO head coach Joe Moglia. Gamecocks coming off a closer than expected win over Florida, but a win nonetheless that wrapped up their third consecutive 6-2 SEC season.
Only three that they've ever had.
Right, so absolutely quite a feat. What they don't know right now is if 6-2 is going to be good enough to get them to Atlanta. That's up to Missouri and Ole Miss and Texas A&M. So while the Gamecocks have got the Chanticleers in a game that, frankly, nobody but Steve Spurrier and the Gamecocks are probably really fired up about, Missouri's got Ole Miss at Ole Miss 7:45 at night. If the Rebels win, South Carolina's going to Atlanta. You have to stay up late to find out. If the Rebels don't win, there's still plenty of hope because Johnny Manziel and the Texas A&M Aggies, although they have to go to Missouri, will have a chance to beat Missouri the next week. Same thing, 7:45. You'll know, probably about midnight if South Carolina's going to Atlanta, December 7th.
Yeah, basically you'll be wrapping up the South Carolina-Clemson game, either celebrating or maybe having a few beers to drown your sorrows after a loss. But that Texas A&M game starts 45 minutes after the Carolina-Clemson game starts. So There'll be something else to watch after the USC-Clemson game ends.
A lot like what was, I thought, a fascinating Saturday last week, where South Carolina fans, it was 7-8 straight hours of really intense football for South Carolina fans.
Had the Auburn game on the big screen during some timeouts.
I don't know that I've ever seen that, particularly the way the Auburn game went. The play that Auburn beats Georgia on, one of the greatest, weirdest plays I've seen in college football ever. My question is that going to be the play that gets South Carolina to Atlanta, or is that going to be the play that keeps them out of the Sugar Bowl? Because if they don't go to Atlanta,
that's a good point, Josh. Everybody was thinking, well, do they want to go to Atlanta if that would cost them the Sugar Bowl? They want to go to the Sugar Bowl? It's like, well, I think Alabama and Auburn, one of the two, has clinched a spot in the Sugar Bowl right now. Now, obviously, if USC somehow gets to Atlanta and wins, they'll go to the Sugar Bowl automatically. But there's not a lot of guarantees of that happening right now. Now, they may go to Atlanta, but they'll still have to win. And if they lose, they're probably not going to be going to New Orleans, not with 3 losses.
But Steve Spurrier, every time we try to broach these subjects this week, he, rightfully so, turns the attention back to Coastal Carolina. Steve Spurrier's been very blunt. He doesn't know how they're 8-2, frankly, and if you watch it, you can understand what he's saying.
A lot of fluky plays.
This is a defense. I told somebody, if South Carolina had played the entire season with the defense of the first 4 games and the offense of the last 4, I'm not sure they would have won any of them.
Yeah.
But as the defense has grown up, gotten older, gotten better, the offense has kind of slid. So far, as a group, they've been able to win 8 games.
Yeah, and you've seen it, Josh. You made the comment a couple of weeks ago. This defense is so much more fundamentally sound than it was at the beginning of the season. Now, is it dominant? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But it's playing better. It's staying in its gaps. It's controlling the edges well, which was huge against Florida, especially in the second half. It's making its tackles, and it's making some big plays. Jimmy Legree comes up with the interception to wipe out the Florida game. They end up getting the tackle on the next possession, which is the old hook and ladder play. They're making those big plays that they've made the past 2 years to get to those 11-2 seasons. So they're on track to do it again. They just got to first get past Coastal Carolina and then see where they are in relation to Clemson and the SEC East and another bowl game.
South Carolina's offense, while the defense has gone up, the offense has gone down. First 6 games of the season, South Carolina converted 53% of its third downs. The last 4, it's converted 25%.
Wow.
A ton of that is Connor Shaw's limited mobility because of his knee sprain. He's a guy who was a first down machine when plays broke down. Some of that's because Mike Davis is hitting his freshman wall as a sophomore, I think. He's got the full load. He's getting beat up. Florida's defenders are fast, and that was part of the deal. But also, I don't think Mike got to the spaces he was getting to quite as fast as he did earlier in the season. He may not play against Coastal Carolina at all. Steve Spurrier's been forceful in saying, I'm not going to rest these guys if they're healthy enough to play, but Mike Davis might just not be healthy enough to play. Brandon Wilds, who knows how effective he's going to be, hasn't played 6 games. Right now, your running back is Sean Carson, and that's all you know for sure.
And Sean Carson did have the play of the game against Florida.
Absolutely.
Routine draw up the middle from your 5. You're just trying to get some breathing room so you don't have to punt out of your own end zone. Well, hole melts. Boom, he's through for a 58-yard run. And a lot of people were saying, well, maybe he should have scored on that. I don't think so, Josh. I think that the Florida defense was coming at him at his angle, and you could see him, I'm just going to have to try to outrun him. He got 58 yards on a routine draw, but he's going to get the load to do it this week. He's coming off his first career 100-yard game. Mike Davis may not play. Brandon Wilds may not play. Connor Shaw is gimpy. This running game is looking, very, very iffy right now if Sean Carson can't go out there and get something done. And with the way Connor Shaw was throwing the ball last Saturday, right, South Carolina might have some need to worry. They might need to get a defensive touchdown in order to put Coastal away, just because Shaw, that may have been his worst game throwing the ball that I can remember him playing.
I think it was. And Steve Spurrier, I think, is clearly trying to light a little bit of a fire under him by saying earlier this week, Dylan Thompson's definitely going to play because Connor plays better when he knows Dylan is going to be in there.
And really, that helps out too, Josh, because Dylan Thompson hasn't been proven. If they tell him that he's going to play, usually he's been pretty good, although you do have the Missouri game kind of sticking out in there. I mean, they told him he was going to play there, and he didn't play so well.
So regardless of the opposition, I think South Carolina's offense has got some things to prove. Maybe if they play well, they can build some confidence going into what? Pretty big game the next week, is that right?
Yeah, it's just decent. It's in the pantheon of college football. It's right there in that sub-middle part. But obviously, this could be another top 10 matchup against Clemson. They're number 7 this week. USC is 12.
Right.
Could move up in that top 10. You never know. But either way, night game, Williams-Brice Stadium, the rivalry, it's going to be great. But as Steve Spurrier says, that's 2 weeks from now. Coastal Carolina is this week. And with Coastal Carolina's team, they've won 10 games for a reason. They're really good. Their offense is not real gimmicky. It's all about winning the corners. They try to get to the edges and get there. USC did well against that against Florida. They're going to have to do it again this week.
I'm not sure either one of us is going to pick a Coastal win. I think the only question is how big a South Carolina win are we going to pick. I'll go first. I'm going to pick a big one. I think that South Carolina should beat this team by a large margin. Coastal Carolina is a good football team, there's no question, but they're an FCS team. They're just going to be outmanned. Despite South Carolina's offensive problems, that defense is getting better. I'm like you. I don't think they can get to the edge. Coastal Carolina can get to the edge on South Carolina. I see something like 40-7. South Carolina wins, gets some momentum going into Clemson. What do you think?
Well, Josh, I obviously think South Carolina is going to win too. But just looking back at some of these close games against non-conference teams, and I know that they were against tricky offenses. They've had their blowouts against non-conference teams too. But the way I look at it, Josh, this whole season has just not really gone according to plan. No. I mean, I thought that they should have blown out Florida. They end up winning by 5 and had to get 4 field goals to do it. So I'm going to say South Carolina's going to win, but I think it'll be, kind of a closer than it looks game, 25-10, South Carolina.
We'll see. And then next week we can come back and talk about what, frankly, we all want to talk about now anyway.
Exactly.
The Clemson game. See you Saturday.